Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning, aka Economic Elevation, aka Financial Consciousness. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm your friendly neighborhood finance professor, and I hope everybody's having a good day. And you know what? I just realized that I'm starting sooner than I planned, mainly because I got the time wrong. I thought it was, what's so funny is I really thought it was 10 a.m. Eastern, and actually it's 9 a.m. Eastern, which is so funny. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and just run with it because I'm just cracking up. So I guess that means I got to go longer than usual. It's weird. I feel like I'm in the freaking twilight zone because I really thought I was up against the clock, and my wife was like, "Oh, I got to go at 8 o'clock," and I thought that meant I had to start at 8 o'clock. So, which is 8 o'clock Central. So, in case you're wondering, like where that's coming from, that's where it's coming from. So what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just rock it out. And so the Money in the Morning folks, they come in later. They're just going to come in and we're just going to have an extra long conversation because I'm not going to let my stupidity mess up your day. I can mess up my day, but I ain't gonna mess up your day. So let's just jump in and let's just get it started because so I am going to uh we're just gonna go extra long this time, and I'll do a Q&A and stuff like that, and make sure that you get everything that you came for. So what I was thinking about this morning, I was on my morning run, and I was thinking about the various things that cause Black economic pain, and I was looking into all the things that keep us back, that cause us to struggle financially, the things that cause a lot of stress. And not every Black person is in economic stress. I think that it would be a myth to believe that every Black person is suffering. There are lots of Black people who are not suffering. There are lots of Black people who are thriving. Lots of Black people are doing very, very well. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that too. We tend to want to focus on the negatives and who can't make it and who's struggling, and almost like being Black means struggle is your birthright. That literally, because you're Black, you're going to suffer from the time you're born, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I just think that that's a defeatist way of looking at things. I think that there are healthier ways to kind of look at this. So what I wanted to do was go through and talk about the research and literally talk about what is really going on in terms of how Black people are experiencing life, particularly in America and around the world, and just some things you can kind of look at in order to improve your own condition. Okay, so anyway, all right, so let me jump right in. And again, I apologize for starting off early. If you're coming in and wondering like what happened, normally there's hundreds of you that'll pile in at 10 a.m. Eastern, and that's because usually I come in at 10 a.m. Eastern. Today I came in a little bit early. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and eat that and make sure we have a great conversation. All right. So, first thing is that according to the research, the first thing that causes so much Black economic pain actually has to do with a lack of ownership. African Americans don't own nearly as much as white folks do, and some of this is due to systematic barriers. Some of it's due to the fact that we our cultures changed, right? Your grandparents and great grandparents were more into ownership. They paid cash for things. Like, and give me a yes if you had grandparents that kind of did that, right? They would pay cash for things. They wanted to own things. They didn't want to go deep in debt. They understood something that they learned during the sharecropping days, which is that debt can be a form of slavery. That once somebody has you in debt, they can truly enslave you, right, and keep you right where you are for as long as they want. And in fact, the trick is what they do is they'll put you in so much debt that you can never get out. So you think that you're paying off the debt, but you're really not. They do this all around the world to make the capitalist machine run. You can go to countries like India, where literally they will have people in so much freaking debt that they keep going based on hope. Right, hope is a very dangerous thing. Hope is used to manipulate folks, because as long as you hope that things will get better, then you're going to keep doing what you're doing. Right, you kind of believe in the process. You're trusting the system, trusting the process. And unfortunately, there's not a track record in America and beyond that says you should really trust the process, right? There's nothing out there that makes sense. So you got to make it make sense, right? So here's the deal. The lack of ownership is partly due to systematic barriers for sure, right? The way the GI Bill was disseminated, the way when they gave away the land in the Homestead Act, black people didn't participate in that. All those things happened, but you got to also understand that black culture is very powerful, right? Black culture is a multi-trillion-dollar entity and that influences people. So when our culture shifted away from ownership, I would argue that that was also another factor that caused us to let go of ownership. We traded in land and businesses for student loans and corporate jobs, because somebody told us that the other man's ice was colder and we wanted to be a part of what he had going on instead of actually creating something where we'd want to be a part of what we have going on, right? Does that make sense? Right. So anyway, so by the way, so if you just came in, just know I started early today because I messed up. I literally looked at the clock wrong. I thought it was 10 a.m. Eastern. It was actually 9 a.m. Eastern. So by the time I went live and I was like, wow, there's not as many people here. I was like, oh crap, I started early. So it's okay that we're gonna make this work. So that's why I'm here now, in case you got the text and you're like, what's going on? I don't understand. All right, so the second reason, so I'm going through 5 reasons why Black people struggle financially. So we talked about lack of ownership. Second is financial literacy. A lot of families that you're never taught about. Give me a yes or no. When you grew up as a kid, um, when you grew up as a kid, how many of you learned anything about investing? Give me a yes or no. Did your high school, your middle school teach you about the stock market? What do you think? What do you think? No, no, they didn't, right? A lot of most high schools didn't. How many of your give me a yes or no? Did you learn anything in your school about entrepreneurship? What do you think? Did they teach you anything about how to start a business in your school? Like, did you maybe take a class, like at least a semester of just learning how to survive in case white folks ain't hiring, in case you can't get the job you want, in case the job market doesn't give you what you want? Okay, no, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Wow. Okay. Right. Well, I mean, they definitely taught you about taxes, right? Did they teach you how to pay taxes and how the IRS works? And how, like when you get that MBA contract, they're gonna come and take like a big chunk of your money. They had to. I know they told you about that. Come on now. Don't be in here lying. Don't be lying on your high school. You know they loved you. You know those people loved you. Did you learn anything about just wealth building in general? Like, did they even help you understand what wealth actually is? Like what a net worth is. Like, versus say a high salary. High salaries, look like you're making money, but it's really the net worth, which is your assets minus your liabilities that matters. I'm sure they told you that. Did they teach you that part? Okay, so they didn't teach you nothing now, did they? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that funny? Right? So again, this is where the conspiracy theorist in me comes out. I believe that they didn't do it because there's no incentive to do it. I got to go really research this in detail, but I remember hearing a person explain that Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, and Henry Ford, people like that, put a lot of money into the public school system, and a lot of the reason that they put the money into the public school system was not so they could create another Henry Ford or another Rockefeller. They put money in the public school system because they just wanted a bunch of people that are going to get up and go to work every day. That's what they wanted. They're like, we don't want a bunch of people out here trying to go and become billionaires. Like we need people that are gonna get up and do a good job and train their children that the greatest source of pride is to do a hard day's work. Right. A lot of you maybe grew up in households like that with, good hard days work. It's almost like the military, like they want you to be patriotic enough to go off and die in a war. But if you go and you talk to wealthy people, tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if you've seen this. If you go and talk to wealthy people and you say, "Well, would you like to go fight in the war?" What are they gonna say? What are they gonna say? They're gonna say, "No, hell no, we ain't going. I ain't doing that." Right? They're not gonna. Well, how about you send your child? You got a healthy, strong, young son. Would you send your son off to die in the same war that you've been promoting to other people? The answer is going to be no. They're not sending their kids to the war. They want your kids going to the war. So it's the same way with capitalism. There's a sacrifice that's made, and it happens in capitalism, and it happens a lot in politics with voting. This whole voting thing, um, they're really big on getting you to do the work where they sit back and they receive the benefits. And this is a really important concept that we've discussed in this class, which references value creation versus value capture. value creation, like, so for example, when people say voting matters, I agree with you. Voting is very powerful. Voting is very important. But the problem is the reason I upset so many people when I bring this up, but I'm challenging them to engage in critical thinking. I have a whole PhD. And not only do I have a PhD, please give me some slack. I got my doctorate 25 years ago. Okay, so 25 years ago, in fact, I was teaching college students in 2000, or sorry, 1993. So I've been thinking about things like this for a long time. So I'm not asking everyone to agree with me. I'm just saying I can't sit back and I know you got a GED or you went to college for 2 years, and I respect that. Or you got a master's degree, maybe. That's nice, and I respect your opinion. But please don't stress me out having to get you to even consider what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to agree. Your opinion's valid. But there's so many people, I get so much pushback, like, oh, you're just telling black people not to vote, and you don't want. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm saying that you must ask an important question. You must say, given that black people vote their asses off, right? We show up. We show up when the politicians need someone. When they're like, you ever see all these ads are like, black women saved America, right? Like they love to do that, like tell us how we saved the country and all this other stuff. So with all this voting that we do, I think my question would be like, okay, with given that you're doing the most voting, you should get the most benefits. Like you should be the one, you should be living good. You should have, all the laws should be in your favor. You shouldn't have a problem in the world. You should have trillions of dollars in capital flowing in your direction. You should have, plenty of home ownership and all of the perks that come with being an American. Would you agree with that? Tell me if you would at least agree with that part. I'm not telling you to agree with me. Maybe you think I'm asshole of the year because I'm not going along with the crowd on everything. But do you at least agree with me that with all the times we've come through for other people, we should be the primary dominant beneficiaries of damn near everything if that logic actually was accurate. So here's what I want to say, and I want you to keep this in your pocket because some of you may go out places and you might hear my name. I guess if my name gets out because I've been doing this for a minute, and you might hear somebody say, "Well, but Dr. Boyce is telling black people not to vote, and he's probably a Republican and blah blah blah." Well, number one, I'm not a Republican. I don't vote for Democrat or Republican. But number two, um, I'm not saying that voting is not important. I'm saying that you're not getting the benefits. I'm saying that the community needs a deep education on the difference between value creation and value capture. You're creating value for sure. They need you to do what you're told. But the challenge is you don't have enough leadership in, say in Capitol Hill and other places to make sure that you're capturing the benefit of the work that you're doing. And this is not new. This is not unique to black people. This is the American hustle, man. This is capitalism, dog. This is what it is. I mean, if you ain't look, if you don't understand that there is a game being played and you're not playing the game, then the game is playing you. If you don't see the game being played, then that means you're being played, that you are part of the game. You are a pawn on the table, and somebody is moving you around like a freaking chess piece. So understand the game so you don't get played by it. Right. So with that, let me see. Like I said, I see it in voting. I see it in working. We encourage workers to embrace values of two values, two core values that leave people broke and exhausted. One is it's very important to put in a hard day's work. If you don't work, you don't eat. Go get a job, work hard, which is very important. But then there's no sort of measuring stick to say like, okay, what should the benefit be? What should the outcome be? The outcome should be that if I'm working my ass off every day, I should be rich, I should be wealthy, I should be financially secure. I should get to the point where by the time I'm 40, I don't have to go to work anymore. Because I mean, my God, I've put in 20 years of hard labor. I pay my debt to society. I should be free not to work anymore. But give me a yes if you agree with this statement. I would say that most people at 40 can't stop working. Give me a yes if you agree that most people at 40 are still paycheck to paycheck. Even y'all educated folks, those of us who got the little letters behind our name, the BA, BS, MS, MA, PhD, JD, all the letters behind our name that make us feel special. You're still stuck when you're 40, you're stuck at 50, you're stuck at 60. So how does that happen? How is it you've been working really hard consistently every day and you're still not much further than you were in the beginning. I mean, how can you be 60 years old and you work 40 years and you have a negative net worth? That's wild. That's impressive. How did you do that? Well, because people told you to just pedal forward and move forward and do what you're told, but you never took the time to gain financial consciousness to say, Wait, what's happening here? What am I? And this is exactly what makes certain people not a good fit. By the way, I want to make this clear. I respect soldiers and I respect military. But I probably wouldn't have been a good fit for the military because if you say, I need you to go run and die on that hill, where you're going to be surrounded, I'm going to be like, well, why are we doing that? Why am I going on that hill? I don't understand that, sir. It looks like we're going to all get killed. That's not going to work, right? That's not going to work. And I'm not saying that you don't need the soldiers, but the problem is that sometimes the system doesn't care about its soldiers. For example, America does not care about its veterans. I think it's absolutely atrocious that somebody could go put their life on the line for you and then they're homeless 10 years later or they're not getting what they need, things like that, right? So if you want to know my opinion about veterans, I believe every veteran should get at least six figures per year for free, just as a thank you for the sacrifice you made for this country. That's how I feel about veterans. But you see how America operates, right? We'll send people off to die. They come back with missing leg and brains blown out, come back in a box, come back with PTSD, Agent Orange. A lot of that happened in Vietnam, and they don't do right by those individuals, right? So what my point is to say that when you talk particularly about the labor market, uh, politics, and also military, those are three areas where there's a lot of value creation, but you don't get a lot of value capture. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do these things. I'm saying you may want to think about where you're positioned in this because this assumption that somehow the overseers are going to do right by you, I think that's a false assumption in America. I'll just tell you the truth. That's a false assumption. You got to do right by you. So part of my goal is to help you to take the time to look at this system you're participating in to make sure you get the benefits. Now, by the way, one thing I want to mention is on Tuesdays we do stock market investing at noon Eastern. And so if you want to join us for stock market class, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. My website, boycewatkins.com, has a lot of great stuff there as well. If you want to educate your kids on wealth, we have things like financial flashcards for kids, stuff like that. We also do a morning class every single day, 7 days a week. It's free to the public called Money in the Morning. So if you want to join Money in the Morning, just go to moneyinthemorning.com, or you can text the word morning to the phone number 87948. And I think David might be here. I don't know if David's here or not because I started early. So if David's here, I'll give you his number if you want to meet with me or my team, and we can help you in your business or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. We'd be happy to support you. All right. So we mentioned, so we're here talking about five things that hurt Black people the most financially. So one is we talked about lack of ownership. Ownership in America's power. Don't let anybody tell you different. Two is financial literacy, just understanding how the game works. Most individuals are not taught about investing, taxes, wealth creation, none of that stuff. The third is family instability. This is a big one. In the Black community, we have lower marriage rates, higher rates of single parent households, weaker intergenerational wealth transfer. That's three different areas. So lower marriage rates. All the studies show that married people do better. Happily married people do better financially than unmarried people. So that means you have two goals. It's not just get married, right? It's get happily married, right? So you get married and be happily married. Those are two different objectives. How many of y'all are married? Anybody married? Anybody know how hard it is to work to make your marriage happy and how the marriage ain't always happy every day? Some days you're in a happy marriage, some days you're in an unhappy marriage, and you have to buy the dip. It's like I compare it so much to owning stock. I really do. I told my wife, I said, I chose you, through sickness and health, richer for poor. And sometimes I got to buy the dip. And sometimes you got to buy the dip. Sometimes I ain't, sometimes I'm dipping. Sometimes I'm not the man I want to be. Sometimes you're not the woman you want to be, but we invest in each other. We bought into each other, right? And we started this institution together, and we know that we are stronger together. But that's the thing. You can only do that with certain people, which is why you do the due diligence. Before you invest, you must investigate. So you take your time, do the due diligence, right? I'm not picking a wife just based on who got the biggest booty. I'm not. You should be picking a husband based on the fact that he's 6 feet tall and can sing to you. You pick a partner like you're picking a partner for a business. When you pick a business partner, you need somebody that's going to work hard, that's got integrity, that's going to be consistent, that has some skill sets, right? You want all these things. It's easier to build with people like that. Emotional intelligence, very big. And here's the other thing about all these things. I also found this too. It's also great not just to work with people who have what you're looking for, it's great to work with people who want to obtain what you know that you need in order to be successful. right? Like even if you're not that well educated, if you just value education, then that makes me respect you, right? If you say, "Look, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't understand how to do this, but I'm diligent and I want to learn," that's pretty good. That's better than somebody who knows a few things who doesn't want to learn anything new. Right. So emotional intelligence can be learned if you invest the time. Relationship building and maintenance can be learned, but you have to invest the time. Right. So ultimately, what I would be looking for if I was out shopping for a spouse right now, I'd be looking for somebody who doesn't just have a lot of the things that I need, and I would take several months to kind of figure that out, maybe a year or two. But then number two, they'd have to have this sort of willingness to grow and evolve because just like in investing, marriage, by the way, is the ultimate investment. Biggest investment I ever made, and literally my understanding of investment theory helps me be a better husband. It really does, and because here's the deal and a lot of investing in wealth building is based on information. And so you kind of have three information sets. You've got the known, the unknown, and the unknown unknown. Right? You got the known. Okay, I know how tall you are. I know how much you weigh. I know how much money you make, whatever. I know what you like in the bedroom, all these other little things. Then you got the unknown, right? Like there's certain things you haven't told me yet. I know that you haven't told me. Like for example, to this day, my wife has never told me how much money she has in her retirement account. I never ask, because I don't want her money, right? And but you never know. Maybe she's kind of like, look, I'm gonna just be okay in case this man decide to trip. I don't want him taking my stuff. And I'm like, okay, because I got stuff too. You keep your stuff and right. So it's not to say we're planning to get a divorce, but if we did do a prenup, by the way. Prenup doesn't mean you expect a divorce. It just means you want to make sure that if it happens in an orderly manner where people aren't destroying each other, because a lot of people get destroyed in divorce. But anyway, so there's the unknown, there's the known, the unknown, and then there's the unknown unknowns. And the unknown unknowns basically reference problems that you're going to run into that you can't even anticipate. In investing, there's a term for that. They're called black swan events. So black swan events are just things you just don't know. You don't know what the next 5 years is going to look like. You don't know if one day somebody's going to get a medical diagnosis that's unfortunate. You don't know if somebody's going to, die or go broke or change their personality or decide to start, to join a cult. You just don't know, right? So you have to kind of prepare for all that too. And so investing does mean sort of being able to understand and be conscious of all those three types of information. Now, next, so family instability that's probably the number one reason black wealth won't grow. Like there's no community ever in the history of all civilization I can think of where you built wealth in a community full of baby mamas and baby daddies. It just doesn't operate that way. So and that's never I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I don't believe I have the ability to change all of black culture because there's just too much stuff out here. There's too many people that will fight you tooth and nail because you said that maybe we shouldn't have songs with anthems like "Where All My Scamming Ass Niggas At," right? Like that young Miami girl. And I looked at her whole background. She has a whole different cultural context that says that this kind of thing is okay. And so when somebody like me comes along, my words will get dismissed because I'm old and I'm uppity and I'm a man, right? So it can be shaped as, oh, you're being oppressive, and oh, you think you're better than us because you're a professor, and you're old and you don't understand the youth. And so I don't know how to contrast that if you're not receptive to helping to me explaining like, okay, yeah, you're right. The music from our generation probably started the music from this generation, but that doesn't mean you repeat the mistakes of the parents, right? I had a father who was addicted to heroin. Never once did I was I able to say to him, well, since you use heroin, it should be okay for me to use heroin. If anything, it should be the opposite. It should be like, wait, because you paid a price for using heroin, I now know that drugs are not a good thing, right? So when young people are saying, well, the reason, you don't like the culture now and the music now, y'all had Lil Kim and y'all had this and that and the other. I'm like, yeah, and there was a price paid for that, right? There was a consequence for that, right? So we don't want to repeat it, right? Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you repeat it. Do you know what I mean? So generally, I think culturally, just the perspective on family, seeing children as a burden, seeing marriage as like a slavery, that's gonna pretty much mean you're gonna have a whole lot of people suffering in their own hell of their own making. And in fact, I challenge you, when you listen to all the people that are suffering the most financially, it's usually people that are doing everything by themselves who have rejected all forms of alliance or partnership, right? That's just what it is. I'm not saying that all single people are going to struggle. I'm just saying that doing things by yourself is much harder than having teammates. So maybe if it's not a spouse, I would just get some teammates, even if it's siblings, friends, whatever it is. Because wealth is a team sport. Wealth is a gang affiliated activity. Wealth is the kind of thing that is typically built from organizations, institutions, and teamwork. That's where wealth comes from for the most part. Apple ain't nothing but a big economic gang. Nvidia is a big economic gang that makes this worth over $1 trillion, and they couldn't do it. Jensen Huang could not do that by himself, right? So I would encourage you to find your economic gang. And these are the types of things that kids can learn when they're children, to know how to approach the economic system. Like I meet with a lot of my kids and we talk together, and I call them millionaire meetups because I want they're all going to be millionaires, and I pretty much tell them you got to stick together, you got to work together, you got to find common ground, you got to help each other out. You want to be positive and not negative. You want to add to the pile. You want to bring good ideas. You want to share ideas. You want to talk to each other and work together because that's how you become successful. Okay. All right. Now, here's another one. Another thing that kills black wealth. So we talked about lack of ownership, lack of financial literacy, family instability. A next one is consumer culture and debt. So heavy spending on depreciating assets and luxury consumption, right? Give me a yes if you've noticed how so many artists love to promote luxury items. It's crazy to me. It's really almost borderline hilarious because what is interesting about that is you're promoting luxury items to people who can't afford it. And I saw a thing, given the glorification of scammer culture. I saw a video of a young lady who was trying to use a fake ID to buy a $50,000 car. Right. So she was in there and she was using fake identification. And of course, the white folks were asking her like questions that she couldn't answer. And she was pretending like she's innocent, or maybe that it was racism or something. And it was very embarrassing. I had like a lot of secondhand embarrassment as I watched this video. And what's interesting to me is I remember thinking to myself, I said, that's so fascinating, that she is using a fake ID to get this car. Because I was like, I would understand it better if she was using a fake ID to like get food or groceries for her kids, or to just get any car because she needed some type of transportation. But I was like, I wonder why she needed a $50,000 Range Rover. Like, I don't even want a $50,000 Range Rover, and I can afford one. Like, well, what makes you? Who put it in your head that you even wanted a car like this in the first place? And that's a big danger of music and media is when they're constantly promoting all this. I don't have the video, Candace. I would show it to you, but I don't have it. Um, when you're constantly promoting luxury items, what happens is you have a bunch of young people in communities where they have no money who are watching social media and they're seeing all these other young people with all these luxury items, and that's creating a lot of demand, which is therefore leading them to engage in risky behavior to get those things. Like there's no reason that nobody has ever needed a $50,000 Range Rover, right? Nobody, right? But we have a society where we've trained young people to feel like I gotta have that Range Rover, I gotta have that Coach purse, I gotta have that Louis Vuitton, right? And this is all psychological. This is all brainwashing, by the way. That's what it is. It's the mass manipulation of the subconscious mind to get you to feel somehow that owning these luxury items makes you into some sort of a better person, or to signal status. I see that word signaling. That's a big one. There's entire research papers written about this. This is a very common issue. The next one is, well, the last one would be just structural barriers, right? Housing discrimination, unequal access to quality education, capital, housing, business financing, etc. There's big gaps in these areas. White folks have done us dirty when it comes to capital accumulation, capital allocation. It's been terrible, and that's where, like, so when I hear from politicians that are like, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, we want you to support us for whatever, or tell black people to do blah blah blah." They do that sometimes. If they this is I've been there. I've been in some of those rooms where if they feel like you have an influence on black people, then certain people will reach out to you and ask you to go out and share a message. The Obama administration used to do that with me, and I was down for it for a minute. But the problem was that the problem was that I realized that it wasn't to the benefit of black people. it was more so done to manage Black people. And I was very disappointed by it. Like I really thought, I believe it or not, I was actually one of the first people on CNN to say that I thought Obama could win the election. I said that when he only had 5% of the vote. I used to, I went on CNN and I said this guy's super articulate. I think he's got. I mean, he's going to get Oprah's endorsement. I think he can catch Hillary. I really do. And at that time, he only had 6 to 10% of the vote. And I remember Cornell West telling me about how Jesse Jackson Jr. and Cornell and a bunch of other people went into a room to figure out how to get. They went to a hotel room for hours and they were trying to figure out how to get Black people to support Barack. That it was that tough at the time. And so anyway, he got elected, and I was really excited. I supported him, and I remember they called me, and so when the administration reached out, I was excited because I thought, okay, this is going to be great. Now we can really make some progress, and now I can maybe I can be of help to you to help you understand what Black people need, right? Like access to capital, not jobs, not just jobs and more education in white run schools. I think Black people should be running some schools. I think Black people should own some businesses, not just work for more white people, right? So I remember they called me and I thought, and I had a whole list. I had a nice little list of all these things that I thought Black people could use. And what I was hearing from people, I took a survey from my audience, like, what do y'all think? I'm going to talk to them. What should I bring up? And they didn't want to hear any of that. They were like, yeah, that's nice, but here's what the president needs you to tell Black people to do. And I was like, but no, we don't work for him. Like he works for us. And it didn't take long for that communication to break down. What happened was I got exposure to people that they refer to them like as political wranglers, like the Al Sharpton types, where they basically their goal is to kind of pull Black people together, to wrangle us together, to make sure we don't go too far off the ranch, and to make sure we don't ask for too much, but to make sure that we still do what we're told. Because I remember once I said something in an article that I think the White House didn't like. And from what I gathered, Valerie Jarrett, who worked with Obama, calls Al Sharpton and says, "You got to get this Boyce Watkins." I don't know if that was the exact conversation, so I'm not going to say exactly what was said. So I will say I really had a strong impression that he had talked to Valerie. I think Al mentioned that he talked to Valerie, and it was like he was trying to basically tell me to change my opinion, and I just was like, well. Number one, I'm not going to change it because I know that I'm right. I'm a professor. I do know things. And number two, how dare you think you can talk to me like I'm a child and somehow get me to shift like my perspective. No, this is truth. Like I'm sticking with this. And that's when the relationship broke down. That's when I wasn't in the inner circle anymore. And so ultimately, when you talk about systematic barriers and racism, and you're talking about things like housing discrimination, lack of access to capital, all the things that are not done legally to support protect Black people, you got to remember that part of the reason those things perpetuate is because you're not fighting for something better. That's it. You're not because if you're not fighting for something better, then why would a politician give that to you? Why would they give that to you? I don't think they respect people that just give loyalty without asking for anything in return. They won't respect you. And I've said it from the rooftops because I sat there and I watched the behavior. And I've told you all the story about me and Russell Simmons, and we went there and got them to change the incarceration rules, which they had promised to do. That was a freaking dogfight. And I was so disheartened to be like, I was like, wow, we got to work this hard just to get people to keep a promise. It reminded me of like when you loan money to a cousin, and you ever loan money to somebody, and then they get an attitude when you ask for your money back, and you got to like go fight them and chase them down and call them 50 times and wait 6 extra weeks and go through all this extra stuff to where you're like, wait, how am I going through all of this just to get my own money back? Like I'm not loaning you money anymore, right? Like you've proven like you stressing me out, man. Like you didn't say all this when you were asking me for my money. You were being very polite. Now that you have my money, you're giving me a whole attitude. Like you're ready to fight me because I'm asking for something back that belongs to me. Has anyone ever gone through that, or am I the only one? Because that's what it made me feel like. It was like, okay, wait, I don't understand this. I don't understand why we have to work this hard to get the things that were already promised. I understand if I was asked for something that you didn't expect or something that was contrary to your policy, but you promised these things. Like we're just saying, do what you said you're gonna do, man. And that just, I'm telling you, that just made me say, screw these damn politicians. I don't think the black community is ever going to progress through the actions of politicians. So, like, if politicians ever come to me and they say, Dr. Boyce, we'd like something from whatever they might want from me, I would say, okay, well, go do something first, and then I'll do something for you. I don't do. And this is like the same thing happens in economics. When somebody ruins their credit score, you make them pay in advance. You don't trust them anymore. You don't let somebody tell you, "Oh, we're gonna do this after you give us." No, no, no. You had your chance. You broke my heart. Now that you broke my heart, you got to show and prove first before I even lift a finger. When I sat there with Ice Cube and we were talking to the Democrats and the Republicans because he had a contract with Black America that was very well written, that had really good policies in it. And so he's talking to the Republicans. They're promising the world because they're trying to get black voters. But then the Democrats are like, they literally said something that was like almost hilarious. They said, "Well, just get black people to vote for us now, and we'll deal with it after the election." And we just kind of looked at each other and laughed because that's not how negotiating works. When you got leverage, that's when you ask for what you want. Keep this in mind when you do this in business or anything else. Once you give up your power, you have no more leverage to come back and renegotiate. You have none. So if you go buy a car, you go buy a house, you go get a job, you hire somebody, whatever it is you choose to do, get what you need in advance before the deal is done. Once the deal is done and people got what they want from you, they have no incentive to go back and rewrite the terms of the agreement. Do you understand? Just this is negotiating 101. And so the reason that we don't get what we want from politicians, because we're the votingest ass people on the planet. The last great voting bloc in America. The reason we don't get what we want is because we don't fight for it. We don't know how to dog fight. We don't know how to fight dirty and nasty and whatever. We just know how to do what we're told. And that unfortunately does not really get you what you want. You can't really get power and make a lot of friends at the same time. That's very hard to do. And especially if you're trying to get something from people that feel entitled to whatever it is you're trying to acquire. Right now, by the way, for those that just came in and are confused and wondering, like, why is he talking now? Because class starts at 10 Eastern, is because I messed up. I looked at the clock wrong and I thought it was, tell you how crazy I am. I thought it was 9 o'clock East Central and it was 8 o'clock Central, and which is 10 o'clock, which is 8 o'clock Central is 9 o'clock Eastern. And so class normally starts at 10 Eastern. So I started an hour early by accident. So I apologize. So I said, well, since we started early, let's just start now. So in fact, those of you that are inside the Zoom, if you want to put a question in the Q&A section, I will answer questions. If you could make the question short, that would help. You can ask about anything you want. Let's try to angle it towards something economic, whatever it is you want, and put it in the Q&A section, Daryl, so I can see it. And that way I'll just do a string of Q&A. Also, later on today, we're going to do stock market class at noon. So if you are interested in finding out where the money's buried in the stock market, feel free to go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. All right, and also for those of you that are not members of Money in the Morning, where we meet every morning to talk about finances, just go to moneyinthemorning.com. Moneyinthemorning.com. Okay, thank you, Daryl. What are your thoughts on the crypto XRP? I own some XRP, but and crypto's just kind of in a winter. So I think that if you believe in crypto, that this is your time to show it because crypto's not really performing yet, but it could change at any moment. And it just needs a catalyst or two, maybe like a reduction in interest rates or something like that. But I do believe in XRP. I believe in Bitcoin. And so I think long-term investments, they could be beneficial. So while everything's cheap, maybe this is a time to go ahead and stockpile. But when you invest, you shouldn't put all your money in any one area. So if your portfolio is like 60% crypto, that's way too much. 20% crypto, way too much. 7% crypto, okay, that makes sense. Can I use your info for my podcast? And do you do interviews on other people's podcasts? Sure, Teresa. Yeah, yeah, use whatever you want. It's fine. It's not a problem at all. I sometimes do interviews on podcasts, but to be honest with you, I'm very, very busy. And so I have people that you can work with. If I've done stuff where it was like an agreed kind of almost like a speaking thing or something. Um, I just, yeah, I wish as much as I wish I could say I have time for it. I just my schedule is like so. But if you want to talk to someone on the team, email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. Support at theblackbusinessschool.com. And I think David might be here. If David's here, you can put your number in there, and I can give you a phone number to call as well. Is Bitcoin still a smart long-term investment? I think it is. I remember long-term for investing isn't 6 months or 3 months or a year. Long term is like 5 years, 10 years, right? So don't go in thinking that whatever investment you make is gonna, start making money for you in 2 weeks. That's what people do. So they'll see something, they'll buy something in the beginning of 2026, and let's say it slumps for all of 2026, and they'll think that it was a bad investment. And I'll be like, no, you have no idea what kind of investment that is. Like imagine if you were investing in LeBron James early in his career when he was like in the ninth grade or something, because somebody told you one day he's going to be a great NBA player and make a lot of money, but all you did was watch him in the ninth grade. I mean, he was probably great in the ninth grade, but he wasn't as good as an NBA player in the ninth grade. He had a lot of growing up to do. So it could be easy to miss how great he was going to be because you need time to see the whole picture. That's the point. And that's what is true with Bitcoin. That's what makes Bitcoin so risky is there's not enough time to view how Bitcoin trades. SpaceX should not be, they're going to be added to the NASDAQ, the leading NASDAQ 100 index. There's not enough time to decide if they should be in there. And that's where the corruption seeps in because Elon Musk changed the rules to get them to let him in early so he could create a lot of demand for the stock because fund managers have to buy that stock. I don't agree with that at all. I think that that's a bad move. It's like marrying somebody when you've known them for 2 weeks. Let's see here. When dating, what quality should you look for in a man if he's not as obsessed with finance and investing like you? I would ask him maybe if money and what I found. I wrote a book years ago called Financial Lovemaking. And by the way, if you go to boyceandalicia.com, you can get a free e-copy of that book. So boyceandalicia.com. And I wrote it when I was on the faculty of Syracuse. So I wrote it over 20 years ago. So if I say something crazy, just forgive me. But I spent a lot of time when I wrote that book analyzing, I was fascinated with attraction and why human beings do crazy stuff when they're in love. And I studied everything. I'm talking about down to the science of just even the danger of an orgasm. Orgasms are really powerful, especially for women. That oxytocin release will have you looking at Bozo the Clown thinking that he's Superman. Like really, like tell me if you know what I'm talking about. Like literally, like when women are when the orgasm happens, it's not just pleasure; it's literally bonding, and it creates this trance almost that happens where some men know how to use that. They know they use that power. Women got their own power too, and they can get money out of it. Look at what that little girl did to Shannon Sharp. She got $20 million out of him. So men and women, we're all. What happens is I learned that love and relationships are like these things where you can't really always trust your instincts all the time. I really think people are better off back in the older days when people had to be approved by your family before you could just go date them and marry them. The new boyfriend had to be approved by the father and the mother, and the new girlfriend, the mother would look her up and down, and she's not as impressed with the short skirt or the nice booty and all these things that got your attention. She's looking at what kind of person she is, right? And so sometimes the women in your family will say, "Don't pick that girl. She's not good for you." But the man will be like, "Oh, she loves me because right." That's what happens, right? So long story short, in terms of qualities to look for, so what I learned from the research was that for women, money was really important because money means different things to different people. For a lot of people, it means security. It means just peace and freedom, right? And so, and you can put in the comments, actually put one word or one sentence that describes what money means to you. I'd like to see that. And so basically, if money means security for a lot of people, then what happens is financial insecurity is very destabilizing. It's very stressful, right? Especially if you grew up with that. That's why knowing your relationship with money is really important. I see Angela Riley says defense. Tara says freedom. I saw stability. Who says that? Leslie Burr says stability. And here's what's funny. I see a lot of women answering. I don't see a lot of the guys didn't answer that question as much. I think money's like kind of a secret little thing. Like there's a reason. Like I didn't. What confused me was I didn't understand how when I started making money, I became much more attractive. I just there, I became interesting. I became 6 feet tall. I My jokes were really funny all of a sudden, and I didn't understand it. And it was because I went from being a broke grad student to making over $100,000 a year, and so money does make a difference, right? So I think it's okay, and I think it's okay. I don't think it means that the whole world is just full of gold diggers. I think that money, if you think about this, right, the inherent need and desire of a woman to protect her children, money helps with that kind of thing. So I think scouting men for their economic potential is a perfectly natural thing to do, and I think the best approach, probably in my view, is just like a stock. If you buy the stock after everybody sees its value, then there's a good chance you'll overpay for the stock, right? Like if you want to be Michelle Obama and you want to get your Barack, the time to get your Barack is back when he's broke and can barely afford a rental car. It's not when he becomes president, because when he becomes president, he's an overvalued stock and it's going to be very expensive to get his attention. But if you are able to identify the Baracks, do your analysis, right? You do your investigation, and you identify him before he becomes Barack. It's a little riskier, but it's a lot more beneficial, right? There's not as much competition, that kind of thing. And so long story short, I would probably talk to people about their goals. Like just ask like, okay, what are your goals for the next 5 or 10 years? And if the person doesn't answer the question like definitively and within say 30 to 60 seconds, or they give a very vague answer, that says a lot. Most people I know who become really successful know they can tell you in a second how they're gonna win, how they're gonna succeed. They're not just gonna tell you what they're trying to do, they're gonna tell you how they're gonna do it. Those are two different things, right? Having a dream is like, oh, I want to get to the top of the mountain. But that's different from me saying, okay, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to spend day one on the base camp, and then I'm going to make sure that we get prepared to go to day two. We're going to be on base camp C, and then we're going to do da da da. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand? Right? Having a dream is very different from having a plan. Right. And then there's the third level. There is having the dream, having the plan, and executing the damn thing. You can learn so much from just watching people on a daily basis. They'll tell you everything. I know a lot of people who got big dreams, big plans, and then when you watch what they do today, they're not doing shit. Because they get the dopamine rush of having the dream and making the plan. They feel they put it on paper and it's nice and laminated. And they all pumped up because they just heard a motivational speech. But then my question is, well, okay, so when you get up in the morning, how early are you getting up, and what's the first thing you're gonna do? And if you're not doing anything on a daily basis that's consistent with your plan and your dream, then I don't believe you. I think that you're going to be like the other 99% who want to do something amazing, but you're not actually connecting what you're doing today to what you're trying to do one day. You're on level one, but you're not on level two. Level one is one day. One day I'm gonna do this. One day I'm gonna do it. Level two is 2 day. What the hell are you gonna do today? Show me what you're doing, because I can tell you what my long-term goals are, and I can actually, because I'm 55, and you develop this, right? When I was younger, I didn't get it, but now I get it. I can tell you 10 things I'm doing today that connects to what I want to do one day. Do you understand? Right. So I would encourage you, if that's of interest to you, like, and understand how to identify that kind of person, understand the trade-off of that. Like my wife, I think my wife benefits from things I accomplish. I benefit from things she accomplishes. But one trade-off is both of us are really, really busy, right? So I'm not sitting around watching Netflix with you 8 hours a day. I can't, because I got to work on stuff. So you have to kind of just know what comes with that. But I really do think that this is an important investment, and I think that was a great question. I don't know why people think it's bad to truly deeply evaluate a person before you choose to invest your life in that person, because your life is important, your time is important, your energy is important. Why would you invest it in something that isn't um, clearly going to give you what you're looking for, right? And it's serious for women, especially because I kid you not, I know 4 women who've been murdered by their husbands. 4. That's crazy. How the hell do I know 4 women who've been killed by their husband? Robin Simpson in Texas. She used to come to. She was part of this group. She came to the convention before. I met her husband. He stabbed her 100 times in front of their daughter. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and I didn't understand why the Deltas didn't all like get together. And the trial is happening now. Like you can go look it up now. Like I'm just like, what in the hell? Why is it? So every other day, I'm hearing about something that happens with a black man that got shot by the cops, or the poor kid that got sent to prison, or whatever. But I don't hear nothing about what's happening to black women. I mean, they're going missing, they're getting stabbed up and killed. It's I don't understand it. I just don't get it. And because I know the family, we've reached out to Ben Crump, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't interesting. Like we want to go find a black man that got shot by the cops. We don't really care about a black woman who was stabbed by her black husband." And that pisses me off, to be honest with you, because I will say, and forgive me for going off the rails a little bit on this, because this just makes me mad. I just hate the fact that we ignore black people getting killed when they were killed by another black person. But if you get shot by a white person, or you're with, like, that black boy that just disappeared, he was with his white friends. If he had disappeared with his black friends, nobody would have even talked about it. It was him being with his white friends that triggers us and makes us suddenly jump into action. That drives me crazy. So anyway, let me keep going. So it's a very serious decision. It could be a dangerous decision. And actually money leaks into that. There's one story I'll tell you, then I'm gonna move to the next question. But there's a now this person was the relative of a very good friend of mine, and she said my cousin was she built a business, and she was making $6 million a year, and she got one of those fixer upper men. You know when women believe in a man's potential, even though he ain't never showed it. And he worked for her. He worked like 3 levels down from her. He worked in the call center, and she was the CEO. And anyway, he had a criminal record. He had a drug problem in the past, but she believed in second chances, and it looked like he had kind of put that behind him. So they end up having a relationship. So here's what happened. After they were dating for a while, he ended up something happened where she set him up with a good woman that really loves you. You know how she'll really set you up. Like, she'll, because some women, unfortunately, some of y'all be raising men like you raise your son, because you raise your son by yourself. So now you got a man, and he becomes your new son, and it is time for him because his mama used to take care of him, so you're doing what his mama used to do. It creates this awkward, weird sort of dynamic, but whatever, I ain't judging. And so she's like, she really hooked him up. She's helped him get his little business set up, and he was making his little money and all this other stuff. Well, unfortunately, his business ended up going south. And I think he wanted her to do more and give her more and sign things over to her. And she was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And then the stress, I think, weighed on him to the point where he ended up getting back on drugs. And which that's a dangerous thing. Drugs will disrupt your brain. Any mind altering substance, I think, is very dangerous. So I'd encourage any young person to avoid that by any means necessary. But anyway, so eventually he started acting crazy, and she just said, "I gotta go," and she got a divorce. So he called her, and he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. Can you meet me at the house?" And so she goes to the house, and he pulls out a gun. He starts to try to shoot her, and she runs away. She runs out the door, and he's chasing her with the gun, and he shoots her right when she's about to get in the car, and she gets shot in the back, and then she dies. So these are real life stories, right? And there's more story. One day I should just have story time and just tell you other stories I know, because I've just seen some, and I think about this because it makes you sort of say, okay, how much leeway do we give, for people that have certain problems? Like, if someone has a drug problem, or whatever, like, how much room should there be to kind of say, okay, I got to be safe. I can't, I can't be around people that have nothing to lose, or people that have these issues that they're bringing into my life. And so that really made me think about the significance and the importance of really thinking carefully about relationships. I don't think we think enough about it. I think that's why we have so many mistakes that are made, and it derails so many things. Like, think about just how depressed you are after a relationship falls apart or you get a divorce, and how you look back and you say, "Man, I spent so many years fighting with this person that was completely undermining everything I was trying to do." And compare that to a person who accelerates what you're trying to do, pushes you forward, right? But the thing is that requires deep therapeutic work, because I learned over time that a lot of y'all are dating your parents, and you don't, and so you're looking for the trauma and the drama because you got it from your mama. Right? So that was bars right there. But literally, you're actively searching for the cortisol spike, because that's what you grew up with as a kid. So just kind of know it's some deep stuff. I would encourage you to look into it, because that is a huge investment decision that will allow you to put people in your life that truly need to be there, instead of picking people that just kind of feel right because they remind you of whatever hell you were going through when you were a kid. So let me keep going. All right. So let's see. By the way, we started early today. Some of y'all don't know we started early. We started early because I messed up. I actually thought it was 10 o'clock and it was really 9 o'clock. So if you're coming in and you're confused, why is it already talking? It's because I must be out of it today. But it's okay. I decided to do Q&A. All right. And David, if you come in, pop your number in there so I know that you're there. All right. So let's see. Michael Ruff. Good morning, Doc. What are your thoughts on SpaceX? Is there a price that it's attractive? Yeah, I'd say under $100. But or if you buy it now, maybe buy it and sell the options on it, so that you get some protection. Let me see how SpaceX stock is doing today. I'm trying to type it in. My laptop's super slow. But yeah, with SpaceX, it's a very high risk company. The stock is not fundamental from a fundamental standpoint. It's not worth what they're charging for it. It's 152. It looks like it's down a little bit today. It could have a spike as it moves into the Nasdaq 100, right? So that could occur. I would say though overall, it's just risky. So because it could go up, it could go up because people really love Elon Musk, and if they get a couple of wins and things go right, this stock could go up. This could become a two, three, four, $5 trillion company. I think they're positioned for that. The problem is that there's a lot of risk there, and so protecting yourself from some of that is essential, in my view, if you want to invest in it. And so ways to protect, obviously, are things like put options. But personally, I would just sell a call option on that stock as soon as I buy it, and then keep some upside for myself. Like go ahead and get some money out of it in advance. And that way you're in, but you're not in it too much. That way, if it goes bad, you're not going to get absolutely slaughtered. A lot of people are going to get slaughtered because they're not good with investing. If you want to know stock options, we met last night to talk about generating income from options. If you want to join, just go to drboyceprime.com, Dr. Boyce Prime, or you can also text the word options to the phone number 87948 on your phone. All right, so yeah, so SpaceX. Okay, so let's see. The next question is what's the next question? Please review Hive. I own 100 shares. I'm waiting for it to pop. Let's save that for stock market class today. We meet at noon, drboystockmarket.com. And all I do is review stocks all day. So during the whole thing. So we can save that for there. I don't have everything I need to look up stocks and stuff. Let's see. With Texas opening a new stock exchange, do you see this as an opportunity for Black businesses to IPO, raise capital? Could be. It could be. Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. I didn't know about it. Well, and there's also something called the Dream Exchange I heard about, but I don't know what the status of that is. I met a guy who wanted to create a stock exchange, and he seemed to have an interest in the Black community. But the hard part is that it's really, really difficult to do that. But it's doable, but it's difficult. Let's see, how much of a capital base is needed for stock options? Cheryl, I say $5,000 is a good start, but if you have more, the more you have, the better. And so one of the things that being a wealth builder does for you is it puts you in a position where you can take advantage of more opportunities. So being a saver, maxing out your 401k, buying a home as soon as possible when you're young is really important because what happens is you know, by the time you're 40, 50 years old, you're sitting on maybe $100,000 in home equity that you can borrow against. You've got some, a stock portfolio that you can borrow against. This is where you can do what wealthy people do: buy, borrow, and die. That's where they accumulate assets. They don't sell them because they don't want to pay taxes. They just borrow against them, and that gives them plenty of money to do whatever they want, to make investments and go on vacation, all kinds of stuff. And so selling stock options is really great for those of you that have been doing some degree of saving. If you haven't been saving, then you may have to be creative. Maybe find family members you can work with. Maybe work together with. I think family business meetings are beneficial because you can come up with investing and business ideas that'll help you increase your income. But overall, the people that have done the best with options, like there are people in this room right now who've confirmed to me that they're literally making $2,000 or $3,000 a week selling stock options. This is not imaginary money. This is real money. This is how I make my money. And but the problem is that we are trained on things like jobs and credit scores, and not trained on capital and owning capital. When you build a capital base, and all that is saving and buying a home and putting money to the side, things like that, then you're able to make moves that you can't do otherwise, right? Because if you don't have financial capital, you have to use things like human capital. It's like going to work every day and you make money because you've got stuff in your head, and or maybe I don't know, some people even sell their bodies, and or even if you go to work every day and you're doing labor, you're technically selling your body, right? So that type of capital is very depleting. It's very hard to make money from that. But financial capital is the best because that truly is what it means to have your money work for you. So there's different aspects. If you are in Prime and you're trying to understand it, there's a couple things you can do. One, log in, look for Prime 101. Prime 101, we've done probably 20 different versions of it. So there's a lot of you can choose from. That will get you started. That explains, okay, what's a call, what's a put, what does it mean to sell an option, how's all that work? The other thing you can do is this Friday we're doing a financial slumber party, and we're going to get together Friday night at 11 p.m. 11 p.m. at night on a private Zoom, and we just have a party. It's like I play music and we have fun, but also we play games and everything else, and then we talk finance. So what we're going to cover this week is a training I did called "How to Make Money Without Working." Some of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, or even if you have seen it, just watch it again because it helps to go over and over and over again. Because I have found that to be one of the most valuable financial tools that I've seen. And I've seen a lot of different ways to make money. What I like about it the most is I think when I got about 45, I got tired of working all the time, right? I was like, okay, work, it's nice to make money, but if you're working constantly, it eats into your quality of life. You're not able to spend time with your kids. You can't go to the gym. You're stressed out, whatever. And so really, this approach is, in what I have seen so far, the best approach to those who want to make income without having to do all the extra stuff. Like we do real estate, even you got to go buy the property, you got to work with the bankers, you got to work with the property manager, you got to fix the toilet in the middle of the night. You have to deal with the tenants. There's a lot of headaches that can come with that. Whereas I found with selling stock options, I can have a property that's worth less than a real estate property and make more cash flow and literally make my money from my bed. All I gotta do is punch a buttons on an app. I'm going to sell my options literally later on today. And I literally will pull like a couple $1,000s out to pay a credit card bill, that kind of thing. So it's pretty good. It's a really great way to make money. So drboyceprime.com if you have an interest in it. If you go to Dr. Boyce Prime, just sign up or make sure you watch the Prime 101. That'll get you started. It's worthwhile in my view. All right, so let's see here. How long does it take to know if you're building with the right person for the long term? I think it depends on how long. It really depends. And here's the thing: every situation isn't unfixable, right? I really am a big believer in if you have a group that you're trying to keep together and get on the same page, I think a good investment to consider would be like a therapist that you can all talk to together, that can make sure everybody's heard, that you follow the rules when you have an argument, that nobody's feelings gets hurt, or if it does, you're able to repair it and kind of deal with it. That just, it makes things so much easier, right? And I'm not just talking about a marriage. I'm talking about if you got a music group. If I'm New Edition and we're making $10 million a year because we done got Bobby Brown to slow his crazy ass down and go on stage and show up to all the concerts and all that, I have a therapist in the group to make sure that we keep the band together. Do you understand? Because we don't want to end up like 3 6 Mafia, who probably lost $100 million because they were all crazy, fighting on drugs and disrespecting each other. We don't want to be like, my buddy with the Ghetto Boys, Willie D. I asked Willie, I said, how come you and Bushwick and Scarface are not touring? Y'all can be making money everywhere. Well, it's because it was kind of a mess. I don't think Willie minds me sharing that, but it was like it was just a little messy, right? And I don't know, some messes can't be fixed, but some can. And it's not just about fixing the mess to get to the money, but it's also preventing the mess. The prevention is the key. So you got a spouse and y'all doing good and you're making money together and life is solid. Protect that. Protect that just like you protect your job. When you go to that job every day, you're protecting your relationship with your boss. You respect the boss. You're not going to cuss the boss out because you had a bad day. You're not going to do anything unprofessional because you want to protect that job. So what I do not understand for the life of me is why you will work your ass off to protect your job, but you will not work your ass off to protect your family. Your family matters more than your job. I don't care what your job is. I'm sorry. I know you love those white people you work for. Maybe you hate them. I don't know how you feel, but that ain't more important than that spouse and those children and that people in your household. I'm sorry. So in my view, anything you would do to protect the job, you should be willing to do twice as much to protect the things that matter for you. Your real wealth. Your real wealth is internal. It comes from your family. It comes from your investments. It comes from the assets you own. It does not come from you being given stewardship to protect the assets of Massa. You know, you're doing a good job for him. That's why he likes you working for him, because he's making so much money from you. But I'm sorry. I think it's very important for you to make sure you're working for yourself. All right. Now, does Richard says he can't hear me. Let's do a sound check. Give me a yes if you can hear me, okay? Let me know if you can hear me. And while you give me your yeses, and which I hopefully I'll see in the chat, I will explain for those who just came in. I started early today because I messed up. I messed up. I accidentally started an hour early. And I was like, what am I gonna do now? I said, what the hell? Like, it's gonna go longer today. So I've literally been here for over an hour. So if you got here late, you can go back and I'll put the link to the recording. You can watch the recording from the beginning if you want to, because we've been talking about a bunch of stuff, and I've been answering questions, and it's kind of fun. I kind of like this. It's all right. So what I'm gonna do also is I share the link to the recording for everybody who's in the Zoom. I want to answer more of your question. Here's the link. So grab that link right there. You should see in the Zoom. So just click on it and open it on another browser so you can watch it later on. And my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, by the way. I'm also on Substack because Kendall and Karen taught me into it, and I appreciate them very much. And also TikTok and just a lot of places, right? So you can find me in there. I have a Spotify podcast too, so feel free to grab that. All right, so let's see here. The average median Black family net worth. I don't remember the number exactly. I do know, and that's interesting that you said the average or the median, because those are two different things, and I think that's good that you know the difference between the two. Because the average gets skewed. That means like if you have some rich people in there, they'll stretch the average and give the impression that people are doing better than they are. And medians matter more than ever because wealth inequality is quite high in America, not just racially, but just across all groups. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that the median Black family net worth is, drum roll, please. Oh, this is crazy. No way. Oh, oh my God. Okay, why am I tripping? Median net worth of Black families in America, you ready? $44,900. Okay, write that number in here, 44,900. Guess what the average is? Remember, I told you the average can get stretched by rich people. The average net worth in America for Black people is $211,600. $211,000. That's insane. So to show you just how they call it skewness. That's one way of measuring this. So to show you, let me ask you a question. How many of you will say your net worth is above $45,000? Like if you took the value of your home equity, value of your stocks, subtract your debt, it's over 45,000. Give me a yes if you'd be over that. Okay. All right. Now let's do the other one. How many of you would say that you're over $211,000? Would yes or no? Are you over 211,000? I bet you there's gonna be a lot of no's. And it's okay. It's okay because 211 is a lot of money, right? How many of you even thought, I mean, did anybody even think that average Black net worth would be $211,000? And so if somebody uses that number, it can be very deceptive. It could give the impression that Black people are doing better than we are. But it does kind of show that there are some that are in that extreme, quite a few. And in fact, actually, I feel that partly my job as a finance professor is to talk to you about how they got into that extreme. I know exactly what they did. I know exactly what they're doing. But they're in the stock market. They're buying real estate. That's it. And then some of them have businesses. Entrepreneurship will skew your income high if it works. Problem is entrepreneurship's harder because the failure rate of Black-owned businesses is about 80%. That's why I'm such a big advocate of things like selling stock options, because that failure rate is very much lower, right? Right? Like it doesn't require any work and you can do it right away, right? As opposed to a business which might require you to give 10,000 hours of labor before you start really making a big profit and all this stuff, right? A business is more of a sacrifice from the soul. It's you had to put your heart and soul into it, as opposed to something like the stock option thing, which is like something you just do in your spare time, and the money's kind of the same. So I'm a fan of only time I want to be entrepreneurial is when I really want to get involved. If I don't want to get involved and I just want to make money, I find something easy to do. Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. So check this out. So for white people, um the median net worth, hold on, I'm trying to pull, here we go. The median net worth of a white American. So for a black American, the median net worth right now is, this is according to the survey of consumer finances from 2022. The median net worth of white people is 285. For black people is 45K, 44.9, right? So 45K to 285. So the median white net worth right now is, what's that? What's it about? 8 times higher, no, six times higher. Yeah, about 7 times higher for white people than black people. The average net worth of white people. So remember, the average net worth of black people is 211,000. The average net worth for white people is 1.39 million. 1.39 million, which again, that's wild because most white people are not millionaires, right? You're not going to just go down the street and find 10 white millionaires like that, right? So if I was to say like, oh yeah, all you white people have over $1 million in the bank, most white people would look at me like I'm crazy. But there are a lot of them that do have that kind of money, and also it's being stretched, and inequality is being stretched in America. You got the trillionaire Elon Musk on one end, and then you have the average working class family on the other, and that gap is growing tremendously to the point where it's really becoming a national security risk. And that's probably why rich people are building bunkers and all this other stuff. All right, so let's see here. If your protective put in the money is in the, you know what? If you're asking about puts and calls and stuff, say put that in the options class, Jarrell, because most people wouldn't know what I'm talking about there. So drop that in there, and I'll answer that for you for sure. I'll do some Q&A for that. All right. Now let's see here. Someone says there's no link. Um, I don't know what link you're looking for, Judith. If you were looking for the link to the recording, I put that link in there earlier. And so I'll put it in there one more time. So if somebody could hold on to it or reshare it or give it to Judith, I'd appreciate that. So there we go. There's the link again, Judith. All right, so let's see here. Can you please share the best ways to start investing with $1,000? Yeah, I like index funds like SPY, VOO, AIQ, simple stuff like that. QQQ if you like technology. If you like healthcare, XLH. XLH is a healthcare ETF. What is your position on trust and putting your investment accounts in a trust? I love trust. Trusts are great for asset protection. You can make your trust your beneficiary of all your wealth, all kinds of stuff like that. By the way, David, if you're here, say something in the chat if you could. Okay, I see a phone number 845-222. I don't know what that phone number is. So maybe you can let me know what that means. There's David. Here he is. Okay, yeah. So David, if you want to meet with me or my team, or you want us to do something for you, I don't know, maybe you want to host the convention or something because you have free venue space or a hotel or something. You can call David. His number is 313-762-0903. That's 313-762-0903. So you can do a one-on-one with me if you want to, a small group consultation. You can, whatever it is that and we're always interested in meeting people and hearing from people that have something that can help in a partnership or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, let's go into, let's see, next question. Bitcoin added in a retirement portfolio. Yeah, you can do that. I would talk to whoever manages your portfolio, ask them to give you some Bitcoin exposure. You can definitely do that for sure. But the thing is, it should, in my view, I don't think Bitcoin should be more than 7% of your total portfolio, and there's stocks you can buy that simulate Bitcoin. What's the pricing for one-on-ones or small group? It's not cheap, it's not free. But David's number is right there, so you can ask him 313-762-0903. What's the formula for determining the value of a stock? Dale, that's a formula called the present value of an annuity formula. It's not just for stocks. It values literally every financial asset in the universe. You can use that formula to value an asteroid. They found an asteroid and they wanted to mine the asteroid and get all the money. They can literally use that formula to value the asteroid. Let's see. Tyrone Muhammad. By the way, put your question in the Q&A section so I can see it. 401ks were never meant to be a retirement plan. True or false? Um, I didn't know that. I know somebody named Tyrone Muhammad. If you are the Tyrone Muhammad that I know from Chicago, then man, I think you're awesome. He's a smart man. If you're not, then I'd still you're Tyrone Muhammad. So that sounds like a cool name. But I do know a Tyrone Muhammad in Chicago, and I like him a lot. All right, so okay, yeah, it looks like the original intent of 401k was not to become your retirement plan. Interesting. It was created in 1978 as part of the Revenue Act, primarily as a tax provision that allowed employees to defer taxes on a portion of their compensation. It was originally intended to supplement traditional defined benefit pensions. So it was defined to it. Oh, this is crazy. This is where the rich people get sneaky. This is where the Republicans pull the rope a dope on America. This is why your government's about to go bankrupt. They didn't want corporations to actually have to do what you call defined benefit plans, where they had to agree to give you a certain amount of money at retirement. They wanted defined contribution plans, and they wanted to sort of let you decide how much you want to contribute and all this stuff. So they put the retirement process more so in your hands than in the hands of the company. And so they save money, but now you have a retirement crisis where millions of people don't have any money to retire on. And so I didn't know this about the 401k, but it looks like it was, and this makes more sense. It was supposed to supplement your pension. It wasn't supposed to replace it. And yeah, yeah, yeah. So the original policymakers did not envision it becoming the dominant retirement vehicle. God, no. But during the 1980s and 90s, employers, this is where employers, this is capitalism. So I got to be careful with it. I don't hate capitalism, but when it's not regulated, it gets sneaky. It gets bad. It's like fire. Fire, if you start a fire, you have to regulate the fire so it doesn't burn everything down. So in the 80s and 90s, employers increasingly shifted away from guaranteed pensions because 401ks were less expensive and transferred investment risk from the employer to the employee. So you don't have the risk. In fact, Chicago, one of the reasons Chicago might go bankrupt is because they spend money like it's going out of style and they have pensions that they have to pay that they cannot pay. They do not have the freaking money, right? So it really is going to become every man, every woman for himself. And if you want to know, like in Chicago, a lot of people are mad at the mayor. He's a black dude. I go to other cities and people are like, yeah, I like that mayor in Chicago. He was really sticking it to Trump. And I'm like, oh, you need to talk to people in Chicago. A lot of black folks in Chicago are very mad at him because they felt that he put the illegal immigrants ahead of the black community. And so they like the black people are like, wait, you're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to take care of people from other countries, and we've been asking for that same money for years, and you never gave it to us. You shut down our schools so you can let some other people have it. Right? It was just stuff like that. That's how they feel. I don't know. I don't. Chicago politics ugly. It's corrupt. I don't participate, but I watch and I what I observe is that there's kind of this interesting relationship that occurs between the black community and Chicago politicians. And I think it's one that should be built on a lack of trust because these people don't give a damn about you. They're not going to take care of you. I'm convinced of that. All right. So let me keep going here. All right. So let's see here. Clarence Fielding, are you familiar with MP Materials? Yes. The only American based rare earth mineral producer. The government's pouring money into it. Yeah. Yeah, rare earths. There's also a rare earth ETF, the Van Eck rare earth ETF. So if you look up the word Van Eck, VANECK, you should find it there, and it allows you to invest in rare earths in a diversified way. The Trump administration has a big interest in rare earth minerals, and that's because the Chinese control them, and the rare earth minerals are very important for technology, and so the Trump administration is trying to diversify away from China by investing in companies that can produce rare earth minerals. Any thoughts on SK Hynix chip coming Friday? Yeah, we'll talk about that a lot today in stock market class. But yeah, SK Hynix and all the chip manufacturers, I think those stocks are going to slow down because a lot of their growth has been driven by hyperscalers like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google that have been spending a ton of capex on chips and data centers and all that, and there is evidence to say that those stocks that are spending on the chips are starting to deflate because of the fact that they're putting so much of their money into this capex. And so I think that that's going to lead to an announcement where they're going to slow down their capex, which is going to lead to a boost in their stock price, but it's going to lead to a decline in the companies that were receiving that money. So that's my theory. And so SK Hynix, I probably wouldn't buy it, honestly. I'd probably wait until it sinks a little bit. Um, let's see. Good morning. Is it okay to sell a naked call that is profitable but has a strike price so far out of the money that is unlikely the contract will be exercised? I don't like naked calls at all. I think they're very dangerous. So yeah, I mean, but do so at your own peril. But just be careful. If it goes bad, it just gets really ugly. But I hear what you're saying. What you're saying is you're okay with taking the risk since it's so far out, but the market will surprise you. I saw a story the other day about a white guy in Canada who lost like $6 billion as a trader because he took this risk that looked like it had no probability of actually occurring, and he ended up losing $6 billion for his company because the stock market will do that to you. It reminds me of poker. Poker's like that. Poker is this game that I love. It's a game of strategy, psychology, and math, and it's really easy to get confident when you practice a lot and you get good at it. And then what'll happen is it'll humble you real fast. It's like I compare it to like dating the most beautiful woman in the world who might cut your throat in the middle of the night just because it's a Tuesday. And so you can never underestimate that kind of thing. I would encourage you just be really thoughtful about any risk that you take because the market can go south and it can get ugly. Bad things can happen. If you go back and study, like for example, the dot-com crash, there were really reputable companies that everybody loved that literally dropped down to zero. Like literally, imagine you have a stock that's $200, and imagine that stock dropping from $200 to $3. That has happened before. When Enron went south, I was teaching at Syracuse. I had a student that was working for the accounting firm that worked for Enron. She was in my class. She was the only black girl in the class. She was very smart. And I'll never forget during the semester, Enron, which was a really strong, stable company, highly reputable, sank and just disappeared out of nowhere because sometimes they lie to you. They hold up a facade, and then the facade crumbles, kind of like when Tiger Woods got caught sleeping with all the porn stars or whatever. It's like you have all this stuff happening in the background that no one's talking about, and then it gets revealed, and suddenly everything changes. So just be mindful of that. Remember, you got your known, your unknown, and then your unknown unknown. You have to be prepared for all of that. So let's see here. Can you create a dating app within the B1 community? That's an interesting idea. I do have a networking space that we're putting together. I'll launch it and let invite you guys to join first. It's called B1 Village. And it's a spinoff from B1 Connect. You might have heard me talk about B1 Connect and B1 Village. I want it to be a place where you all, after class, can go and connect with each other and meet with each other. And I want to set it up so that we can implement all the things that we talk about. Like, for example, I talk about having family business meetings. I want to structure something where you can go in there and set up a family business meeting and meet with other people that you grabbed and made into your relatives that are right here in the space. And we're almost done. I'm not inviting everybody. This is not for the whole Black community. This is for people that understand what the assignment is, what we're trying to do. I think it's so much more fun building with people that are just ready, that just understand, they get it, that are trained on wealth at a certain level. You don't have to be an expert. It's basic stuff. Like we should all own stock. We should own real estate. We should love our kids. You know what I mean? Like I respect black men, respect black women. I want to be mentally and physically healthy. Just basic ideas that you can unify around. Um, because if you go, I'm gonna tell you, like if you go to the All Black National Convention and you start playing, you turn on the music and it's like where are my niggas and my scammers at? A lot of people are going to be like, turn that off. Like they're just not going to hear it. There's not enough diversity in the world to leave space for the perpetuation of blatantly ignorant ideas that have been scientifically proven to be highly destructive to the Black community. It doesn't mean you can't have a debate about it outside the walls. Doesn't mean you can't have scenarios where you can have some tolerance and understanding of that. There's a whole science there, but literally, it's like if you're training for the Olympics, don't show up to practice with donuts. Like don't ain't nobody trying to sit around and eat Krispy Kremes all day. We're trying to get ready to compete. So that's how I see the space. Like I think, in my view, with what we do in the Black Business School, my goal was, like I said, I want this to be like the Harvard for Black people, because I know that we can create that, and it's easy to do because nobody studies Black wealth extensively. That's why they can't solve the problem, because they don't put any energy into it. My wife and I did a literature review to figure out how many people have studied just financial psychology when it comes to Black people, like just how money mindset plays a role in outcomes for Black people. There was no research at all, nothing. They don't study it. So it's like, okay, let's create that space where this is a top priority. We ain't got time for no foolishness. We're trying to do something. So anyway, that's the goal here. So I'll let you guys know when it's ready. It's pretty much ready, but I want to look at it, kind of, make sure it's fits what I'm looking for. All right, and in a second, actually, I'm gonna show you something else I did that I thought was kind of. Remember, I told you I want to do that little series called Generational Curses, kind of like a Twilight Zone-ish kind of thing. I made an episode, so I'll play that for you in a minute. My daughter's looking for a Black therapist. Does your wife offer those services, and does she take insurance? The insurance part, Teresa, I'm not sure about. I know she does have services. So her website is my wife, as you know, she's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and she does see lots of clients. Her website, write it down if you could in the chat for me. It's draliciawatkins.com. That's draliciawatkins.com. So feel free to reach out to her. I was watching Diary of a CEO, and there's a guy on there saying that people are going to lose everything in the stock market based on what is going on now. Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. I like Diary of a CEO. I love the fact that you got this really smart Black British dude that just is killing it on these great interviews. But, doom and gloom predictions have been around since forever. There's always people that can sell books by predicting the end of the world. Now, here's the deal: the stock market's probably going to have some kind of major correction at some point. It's going to look like a crash. It's going to be kind of ugly, and it's going to be ugly for about a week. And then everyone, the smart long-term investors, are going to sweep in. They're going to buy everything up and just wait for everything to recover. I'm not saying that you can't have economic calamities and problems. You had a big one in 07, 08. You have big ones since then, the pandemic, things like that. Um, Crashes happen. They're going to occur. If you think that the whole US economy is going to go to zero, no, there's no. What planet are you on? Do you understand how much money America has? Do you understand the economic power of this country? So it doesn't mean the stock market can't sink. It's going to. It probably is. I mean, some of these stocks have just gone way past where they should be price wise. But look at the companies. These companies are powerful. They are making insane amounts of money. That's real money. Right. So don't ever mistake the idea that somehow the market may correct itself to mean that suddenly all the American companies are going to just disappear and go to nothing. No, we are the best on the planet at high speed, high octane, like move fast, break things capitalism. That's our downfall, by the way. That's a problem. That's ethically inappropriate. But we are the biggest economic gangsters on the earth. America is. And sometimes it's to our benefit. Sometimes there's a cost. The cost is that among industrialized countries, America has the lowest quality of life. That's why I talked to you about conscientious capitalism. If you want to be a capitalist, you got to be conscious, because if you're not, you're going to be miserable. You're going to make a bunch of money, have a great job, have a high income, and your life is going to suck. Your wife's going to be sleeping with the pool boy. Your kid's going to be out in the street selling ass. Your health is going to fall apart. You're going to be just in a terrible spot, but you're going to have money in the bank. Well, who cares about having money in the bank if your health is failing, your mental health is jacked up, your family structure is destroyed, and your kids hate you? That is not the American dream. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare. So, but here's the thing: if you're able to contain the fire and be conscious about it, then you can go make all the money in the world. I want that for you. But then you have all the great things that money can't buy, and money becomes an accelerant to get to those things that are more valuable than money. You can use the money to build a stronger family. You have money. You're a young man now. You can attract great women, a great woman in your life that to be with. You'll have the pick of the litter, right? You're financially secure as a black woman. You're not going to end up doing desperate things to get money, right? So you don't have to do the Young Miami route. Young Miami, that poor girl, the reason she made that song about scammers and boosters is because her mama was a scammer and a booster. Her mama actually got in a high speed chase with the police, and she because she was stealing some Gucci purses or something, and then she ended up killing somebody, and that's why she went to prison. In her mind, the only way to make money is scamming, boosting, and going to Diddy parties and rapping about things that are destructive to her community. Um, I forgive her for she knows not what she does, but I must interject and say if somebody had been able to step in and educate this little girl, this beautiful child, on ways to make money without doing things that are problematic, unhealthy, unethical, and unsafe, who knows? Maybe she'd be an excellent stock trader. Maybe she'd be doing something else. But she's doing what she knows because she don't know certain things, right? So I have to be I'd say unapologetic in terms of being extremely clear to say no, the consequences for this messaging that you have are higher than you anticipate, and lead to prosperity in the black community. It leads to prison. People get beaten and raped in prison. Terrible things happen in prison. I don't want kids going to prison. So here's the deal. Look, so let's circle back. Let me put a bow on this so we can finish this part up. Um, America has a lot of money. You're going to get your piece of that because when we talk every morning, we're talking about where the money is. You should work. You'll work best with people that understand and are willing to consider those ideas. The ideas are not complicated. Um, buy stock, buy real estate, focus on your family more than your job. Make sure your mental and physical health is strong. Manage healthy relationships with others. That to me is the American dream. That's when you're rich and powerful at the same time. You're wealthy and you're influential. You're in the circle and you're doing well, but your circle is elevating because you're there. You're not in a position of being some sort of a predator or a distraction or someone that's going to lead to harmful outcomes, right? So to some extent, it is a battle. I don't think you have to fight other people, but you got to fight yourself in terms of making sure that you stay disciplined and committed to whatever the cause is. There is a healthy way to have lots of money and to be financially successful, but you ain't got time for bullshit, right? What's the bullshit? Well, the bullshit is, you know, go make good grades and get a good job, go deep in debt when you go to college, and then never pay off the debt because you're going to be on the corporate plantation for the rest of your life and die with a negative net worth. That doesn't work. But that's exactly the message you're going to get because that is the greatest path of value creation that you can participate in with this economy. Because when you go to work and you spend all your money, the American economy runs full throttle, right? So there's sort of they're the leaders and they're the slaves. And so the slaves are the people that don't think outside that box. They do what they're told, and then they end up disgruntled. I mean, I want you to look around at how many people there are in America who are just angry, right? Have you noticed this? Look at how many people are part of what like they call the angry middle class. Like I did everything right. I did what I was supposed to do. And now I still don't have what I need. I still don't have financial security. They're pissed. They're mad for good reason. Well, the reason they're mad is because when someone comes along and says, that's probably not the best way to do it, they didn't listen. They were like, no, I'm gonna do what I'm told. And you shut up. You just be hating. Okay, cool. I have a PhD in finance, but apparently that means nothing to you. So good luck, buddy. Right? And then years later, they're upset about it. Right? So wealth is not hard when you understand how it works. The billionaires understand it. I guarantee you that if you want to sit and listen to how a billionaire talks to their children about money, and then go listen to how a working class person talks to their children about money, you're gonna hear two different conversations. Two different conversations. All right, so let me get back to it. Let me read a few more questions, and then we can finish up for today. All right, so let's see here. How long is the black dollar staying in the community? Not very long. I've heard the rumor about 6 seconds or 6 minutes or something, but I don't think that was a scientific study actually. Um, let's see here. How much a month can you make using only $5,000 and selling stock options? I don't know, maybe a few $100 for sure. But it depends on what strategy you use for sure. Does LeVar Scott race this Saturday or Sunday or both? Yeah, Shante, he races in Atlanta, and Bar Scott is the NASCAR driver that we sponsor in the Black Business School. He's part of the O'Reilly series, and he has a big fat schedule. And you can look it up online. And we're a small sponsor. Next year, actually, my goal is to put this panther that's over my shoulder. I want that panther to be on his race car. I want him to have a Black Business School race car. That's the goal. That I think that would just be kind of a cool thing to do to support him, to make a statement and give us something to be proud of. I'm really proud of this kid. He's 22 years old, and he's just a great guy. So that's one of my goals that I have. Should the 457 or 401 be converted to gold? Um, I don't feel that way. There's nothing special about gold, actually. I mean, it's kind of okay. It's good to have in the portfolio, but gold has kind of lost its way a little bit too in this recent market acceleration. It's just a different kind of market, so gold doesn't do what it typically does. Gold is typically a safe haven asset that protects you from a crash. Gold really is in position to do that so much. Like if you think of gold like the guard dog that guards your house in case burglars come in, but imagine if somebody gave the dog like some gummies and the dog was just high and he was laid on his stomach and he was just not passed out and like and the burglars walk right past him. That's kind of what gold has done. Gold is a little bit high right now. Gold is not focused on protecting nothing. The things that we used to think you could own to protect your portfolio, they aren't working. Bitcoin was seen as digital gold, right? That was supposed to be a protector, and Bitcoin didn't do its job. Now, by the way, it looks to me, okay, I had a big freeze for a minute. I don't know what happened there. Let's see. Good morning, Dr. Boyce. Is whole life insurance that allows access to death benefit to pay for long-term care a good investment, or use money to invest more in stocks? I think it's a good investment if you don't have other investments. But I buy term life insurance and I invest the rest of the money. But if you're not interested in doing that, then I think whole life insurance is okay. I think it's more like the fact that it's better than nothing. Is it the best possible way for you to make money and to build wealth? No, it's not, but it's better than nothing, right? So I wouldn't sleep on that. So if you feel like having whole life insurance is it helps give you peace of mind, then I'm all for it for sure. Because I think you can do both. Can you explain how taxes are paid on stock options? Are there any tax breaks? No, if you have a long-term investment and you make a profit on the stock you own and it's long-term, then it's going to get long-term capital gains taxes. When you pull the income out from the options, there's a special way the accountant can calculate how much income you make because all that's going to be countered against what you make in capital gains, how much you make from the actual asset. So that's really something for a tax accountant to kind of work through. You can download all the documents at the end of the year and send them to your tax accountant, and they can take care of that for you. You said someone would call me about the podcast. Okay, Teresa. I don't have anybody to call you about the podcast because I don't necessarily have a lot of time to do podcast interviews, to be honest with you. I've done a couple, but not many. I did 19 Keys as a podcast called High Level Conversations. I did that one, but that's the last one I've done. There's not a lot of just my schedule's kind of packed. But if you want to reach out and email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, they can guide you to someone that you could talk to about that for sure. Let's see, where would you like the Black Business School to be in the next 100 to 200 years? Where Harvard is. Like, I think that I think Black people, B1 people, I know that B1 people are going to be known throughout the world for being the greatest wealth creators on the planet. So I would say it's going to be about 40 years from now, in about the year 2070 or 2066. That's when you're going to really see our children really taking like accelerating that there's going to be a B1 child or two or 10 or 20 that will run $1 trillion companies in 40 years. That's where we're going to be. Let's see, Gregory Smith. Doc, what is the ultimate plan for financial powers that be, and how should the Black man seriously prepare to protect his family? The ultimate plan for powers that be, I think that their general plan is just preparing for the future that they believe is going to happen. I think that the conspiracies about exactly what they want to do with working class people can vary. I know BlackRock wants to digitize everything. BlackRock, they control I think $9 trillion worth of assets or something like that. So I would pay attention when they say that everything's going to be digital. I wouldn't look at it as completely sinister though, like they're really trying to hurt you. But I do think they send signals about the directions that they're going, and by sort of aligning yourself with where they're going, you can actually make money. but I haven't seen. I mean, I'm trying to think here. I do know that they like to pillage the government. They don't really plan to make the U.S. government treasury stable. What they do is they do money laundering at a very epic level. Like they'll say we're giving, $100 billion to Ukraine, but then they tell Ukraine when you get the 100 billion, you got to give it right back. Here's exactly what you got to spend the money on. So if you're giving someone money and telling them where to spend it, you're not really giving them money. It's almost like it reminds me of the voting thing. I don't like it when people say everybody needs to vote, but here's who you need to vote for. Like, no, if I'm a free American and you give me a vote, I should be able to do what I want with my vote. Like, why are you telling me like so you're money laundering? You're saying we're gonna get you the right to vote, but after we get you the right to vote, you better vote for us. No, you're not telling me what to do. I just don't believe that that's right. That's not fair. I'm not a sucker, right? So basically, that's kind of so wealthy people are probably going to keep pillaging the government. They're never going to pay full taxes. It might take a full scale revolution. Mamdani, people like that are really good for society in the sense that, he's not really bringing anything overly radical to the world. He's just saying, let's make sure that as we're making all this money, we take care of human beings. I think that nationally we're making the same mistake that the NCAA made. For years, I would fight with the NCAA. I was writing articles in the 90s saying these guys should be paid. Like, what are you doing? And they could have gotten away by just being less stingy. Like, if the NCAA had simply said, we're going to make sure all the athletes have enough money for groceries, they could have probably delayed for 20 years the NIL situation. Seriously, if they just simply said, we're going to make sure you got enough food and money to eat, and we're going to buy you a car or something like that, they could have made a killing. They could have been like, we're going to keep the other billion, but we're going to buy you a car and get you some food. Athletes would have been fine with that. But the problem was they were starving them. They would have athletes that would get arrested for stealing food. Right, like which is different. Like from like if you boosting to go get a Gucci bag, that's different from boosting some beanie weenies and hot dog, and some hamburger buns so you can eat. And that's where they got in trouble because the outrage just grew to the point where the players were like, okay, we're filing a lawsuit against you, and that's why they had now the NCAA is not going to be able to make very much money because now you got 18-year-olds that are going to be making $5-10 million a year. Um, I think that the same thing is true right now in America with capitalism. America was a country that lets rich people get rich and they don't give them much of a problem. You cannot have the American economic system in a place like France. In France, they're radical. If they start seeing you get too rich, they will start flipping over cars, burning down buildings, whatever. French people are very much built on revolution, right? Completely. In fact, there was a girl from France named Jocelyn who used to hang out with the black people at the University of Kentucky, and we had a campus protest, and we would have our meeting to decide what our protest was going to be because that was when the little black girl got attacked because she wrote a letter in response to one of the articles I wrote, and the white boys pulled a knife out on her throat. This is my days in the University of Kentucky. And we were protesting this, right? Because they weren't doing enough. And we would sit and have our meeting and talk about like what our next move was going to be. And like the black people, we'd be like, we should go out in front of the administration building and hold up signs and do a silent protest. And somebody else would say, yeah, and we should all like walk out of class on a Tuesday just to make a point that we're not gonna, right? Jocelyn would be like, we should go and we should find the president's office, occupy his office with shotguns, and then burn it down. Like she was like, whoa, you about to get us arrested? Like we're gonna get kicked out of school? Like she was about it. She was like, I ain't playing. And this is a white girl fighting for black people, right? She was the craziest one in the group, right? So French people would not let Americanized capitalism exist in France. They just wouldn't do it. But Americans, we're pretty passive. We're like, okay, I'll slave along and make nothing for my family and admire the rich guy for how much wealth he has. But when you're putting the hammer on them, and this is where that K-shaped economy comes into play, you have people on the top of the K that are doing way too good. And then you got people on the bottom of the K that are being pushed further and further down. And eventually, I think the pressure is going to be so great that they're going to break. The consumer is going to stop spending. People are going to get pissed off. They're going to start doing things to break the system. So that's the problem. Greed is going to be their downfall. I guarantee it. So, but anyway, with that being said, we should probably finish up Now, I know a lot of you still had some questions, so I'll do another Q&A because it looks like you guys have a lot to say. I got to get ready. We're doing stock market class at noon. So if you want to join us, just go to drboycestockmarket.com. We have the stock market program. It's really popular. It's really good. A lot of people are in there, and there's tons of stuff in there. So feel free to sign up at drboycestockmarket.com. Also, David, if you want to put your number in there, for people that want to reach out for a one-on-one or something like that, I can share that. And also, don't forget the All Black National Convention is going to be the weekend of October 16th. So if you want to meet us in Jersey City, at the height of the Hudson, it's nice and fancy and bougie. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I only ask that when you come, that you bring your friends and family, bring your children, bring your grandparents, bring everybody, because wealth is something that is a family endeavor. Everybody's got a job. The babies have a job. The teenagers have a job. The young adults have a job, the millennials have a job, the Gen Xers have a job, and the boomers have a job. And if everybody does their job, then that's how the team wins, right? Like the football coaches used to say, do your job, right? So anyway, David's number, let me give it to you, is 313-762-0903. That's 313-762-0903. And so if you're interested in direct coaching from me or things like that, or even my wife or anybody, whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you doing something at your church and you want us to help you out, just call that number. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. And sorry I started off early. It actually was kind of fun. We went longer than expected, but I had a good time. And next time I'll double check the clock to make sure I don't mess it up. All right. So have a good one. I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.